Hi guys, this is Asal. I'm studying for the bar and I wanted to review my notes with you. So today I'm studying the tort of privacy invasion and it has 4 parts. So I want to keep this poster up so that if you have a photographic memory, you can kind of compartmentalize it, and when you think about privacy, you think about this picture. Okay, so the law protects people against many types of harms, including the harm to one's personal space and private life. And infringing on these interests is known as invasion of privacy. Okay, so this invasion of privacy, as I told you, has been divided into 4 parts, and I'm going to describe each 4 part to you. So there's the intrusion upon seclusion, and there's, at the very end of my video when I'm concluding, I'm going to give you an acronym of ISLAP. This is actually something I found on Themis, and I really like it. I'm going to write that on the bar so that I can use the ISLAP to remind myself of the privacy invasion torts. So the 4 are intrusion upon seclusion, appropriation of name and likeness, and public disclosure of private facts, and placing a person in false light. Okay, so take a look at this for a second. So the first thing I wanted to start with is actually the intrusion upon seclusion. Okay, so intrusion upon seclusion occurs when someone intentionally intrudes into the private affairs of another person. Okay, the legal standard of intrusion upon seclusion requires that the intrusion be intentionally and highly offensive to a reasonable person. Okay, so like, how would a reasonable person feel about that intrusion upon their privacy? Okay, so I want to move on, and real quick, I would like to talk about the other types of torts, privacy invasions. So actually, because this is going to distract me all throughout the video if I don't tell this to you now, and I'm going to tell it to you again at the end. So remember the I flap, the I stands for intrusion upon seclusion, the F stands for false light, and A stands for appropriation of likeness, and P stands for public disclosure of private facts. Okay, so what does intrusion upon seclusion mean? Okay, so basically a defendant intrudes upon a plaintiff's private affairs, solitude, or seclusion in a manner objectable to a reasonable person. Okay, so that's just what I said. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is false light real quick, because I want to make sure I mention them all. So, false light, the defendant puts together series of half-truths that convey a false impression of the plaintiff. Okay, so actually, this privacy invasion is very similar to defamation. Okay, and I'm going to make a video about defamation, but defamation has so many elements to it, so it might even have to be chopped up into 2 videos, or it might just be like one very long 10-minute video. Like, I don't know. But with privacy invasion, I really want to keep it under 7 minutes if I can. We'll see. So with false light, it also has some constitutional requirements and limitations, and there are some defenses. Okay, so the next thing I would like to talk about is appropriation of likeness. Okay, so this is the unauthorized appropriation of plaintiff's name or likeness for defendant's commercial advantage. Okay, for example, this is like the misappropriation of likeness, misappropriation of the right to publicly to publicity, and this is not consented to. So yeah, I would like to move on. The next thing I want to talk about real quick is the public disclosure of private facts right here. Yeah, so public disclosure of private facts. The defendant gives defendant gives publicity to the private life of another. Okay, so here the defendant is giving publicity to the private life of another, and the publicity would be highly offensive to a reasonable person. and it is not a legitimate concern to the public. Okay, so like what would that mean? Like, let's say that we have a very revengeful ex-boyfriend who decides to take some pictures and post it to his Facebook or Instagram or to the public, and this is highly offensive to a reasonable person. You know, it could really hurt someone for life, and it could, you know, really damage their reputation, and you don't know how people handle their emotions. This is just not right. So I would like to move on, and the next thing I would like to mention, which I've mentioned before, but I really like this definition, so I would like to mention it again, and this is appropriation of name or likeness. Okay, I don't think I described it enough. I kind of mentioned the rule like real quick, and that was it, and I don't think that's enough. So, appropriation of name or likeness is anyone whose name or likeness is used for commercial purposes without their consent, may potentially have a cause of action for misappropriation. So, like over here, how do you do it? For example, when you use some actors' pictures, or just like anybody's, it doesn't necessarily have to be an actor's, and you use them for commercial purposes and without their permission, okay, and you make money out of them. So that's the appropriation of name or likeness. Okay, so this is pretty much all I wanted to talk about, and there's this also really important case I wanted to mention. This is the Nader versus General Motors one, where General Motors engaged in a campaign of intimidation against a popular critic of their practice, and the company employed people to follow him around in public and conduct surveillance on his activities. Okay, so the court found that General Motors committed an intrusion into seclusion when the agents of the corporation spied on the plaintiff in the bank, looking over his shoulder and to see what his financial records are. Okay, so this amounted to the intrusion upon seclusion because the conduct was designed to elicit information which was available through normal inquiry or observation. Okay. So, furthermore, the act of looking over individual's shoulder to see his private financial records would be highly offensive to a reasonable person. So, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. I'm going to close off my video right now, but real quick, you know, in conclusion, just always look at when someone uses someone else's name to support their own product, or, you know, when someone is getting into the zone of privacy, for example, photographing someone in their private home or eavesdropping on their private conversation, such as the case I just talked about, the Nader versus General Motors case. Or when you think about false light, think about defamation. You know, you're like really defaming someone and you're really trying to make someone look bad. And this is really misleading to who the plaintiff actually is, what her character or what his character actually is. And sometimes these two claims come together. So sometimes defamation and privacy invasion, the false light, they come together. But I can't talk about defamation here. So just keep an eye out for another video. And also just always think about, when you think about privacy invasion, also think about intellectual property. You know, when someone didn't consent and someone else used their product to their advantage. And lastly, something that was publicized that wasn't true. And yeah, this is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. And don't forget the First Amendment and the constitutional defenses on that. So I hope you have fun studying, and yeah, just have fun studying. Have a good day. Bye.